Hey everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, I have with me two-thirds of the band Left for Dead, and we talk about their new album coming out on May 29th. I have with me Mark Cicchini and Keith Jones, the drummer and the bass player for the band, and they'll share their stories about recording their latest album. While you're here, hit that subscribe button below on my YouTube channel. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, please subscribe to me over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. Now, without further ado, let's get started with my conversation with Left for Dead's Mark Cicchini and Keith Jones. All right, hey buddy, welcome to the latest episode of the Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn. Today I'm really excited to have with me not one, but two special guests from the band Left for Dead, two-thirds of the band. I got Keith Jones, bass player and background vocalist, and Mark Cicchini, drummer, backing vocalist, and sometimes lead vocalist. How you guys doing?
Good, real good. Happy to be here.
Good to be back.
Excellent, excellent. So today's an exciting day for you guys, I'm sure. We're recording this the day before the album gets released. So you guys must be excited about it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, this is the day we've been waiting for. So,
Absolutely.
It's been a long time coming, and finally it's going to be out there, and really excited to have it happen. So you're right.
It's been a long time coming, just for the fact, and we'll talk about this in detail a little bit. But we started recording this record last May of 2019, and originally we were hoping to press it on vinyl and do some shows and around town and market it and all that stuff and along the way,
life happens along the way.
We had this little pandemic.
Yeah, I think I've heard of it.
So a lot has changed, and I was even talking to Keith the other day in a private email, and I said, I think sometimes God has a sense of humor, because it's really what we're doing now. We've been getting such great feedback and having so much fun with the release. I'm like, I don't think it would have been this fun had we did it the way we normally, the way I planned on doing it. So that's how come, like I said, I think God has a sense of humor, and you're like, you're looking forward to doing this, but I will tell you, because I was handling the getting it out there and talking to the pressing plants, and this was originally supposed to be out on Tom Shannon's Rockologist label, the same label that Bruce Kulick uses. Yep. And so we were really excited about being on the same label and releasing it that way, and then we couldn't find anybody to press it up, because they were after the COVID thing happened, and we were hemming and hawing, and I was so disappointed, because we put all this work and effort into it, and then I finally was talking to Mike Brandvold, and he's like, just we'll get it out on Spotify and iTunes. Right.
Do you think the album, the release with Tom, could happen somewhere in the future?
We're going to see how this goes. Okay. So far though, the response has been just freaking through the roof, and I'm very proud of that. I know Keith is as well. We've put a lot of hard work into this, and then again, let's face it, a lot of people who are watching the show know me from three sides of the coin, and know how geeky I like to talk about my metal bands and stuff like that. So just imagine all that geekiness running rampant and in a band, so. And fortunately, both Mike and Keith, we try to pay attention to the details and have some fun, and make some good music.
Right. Now, just for everybody watching this, though, this is not your first CD by any means, right? You guys have been a band for 18 years, I think, roughly, give or take, right? So how did the band come together? Maybe you guys could just share that a little bit before we get into the details of the new album.
Go ahead, Jonesy.
Mark, I think this is you got the history down pat. So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's Keith and I played in a band in the 1980s. Matter of fact, I met Keith in June of 1983. We started playing in a band together.
Yeah, we're old.
And that ran its course and had some.
We all are.
We had some pretty good, for local band success. We were in magazines from around the country. Got some great reviews. Won a national contest, and our band was a really good band. And then as we started getting older,
right, Mark?
What's that?
We were better than Poison, right?
That's right.
Tell that little story.
That's a funny story there. We were our demos. We were in a band called Chain, and that does play into the Left 4 Dead story quite a bit. So, and we were in. We started getting reviews for a lot of fanzines. Now, Mike, you were on the East Coast. Do you remember Kick-Ass Monthly?
Yes.
Which was based out of New York.
Absolutely.
We were in Kick-Ass Monthly quite a bit.
Yeah.
And their charts, we were always. It was kind of funny because it was very new wave of British heavy metal, and kind of like I still have some of those charts. We're in there like with Metallica and all these big bands.
Right.
Anyways, the first time we were featured in that magazine, and I bring it to to Keith and we're and the guys in the band, and we're looking through it. Well, there's a big feature on us. It was like a 2 or 3 page feature on us.
Yeah, he actually wrote you back because the first time that you sent the demo, you just did like a couple of paragraphs, and he said, "Oh, no way am I doing like a single paragraph," and he wanted a lot more information on the band.
Nice.
Yeah. So anyways, but
nice.
I still have that issue. It's actually over in the other room, and like 2 pages after our big write up, and we got our name on the cover again, along with all these big AC/DC and Kiss, and our names on the cover. And a couple pages next, there's a feature on Poison.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who were just as big as we were at the time.
Right.
We weren't.
Right.
And like Keith said, it was funny because they predicted all this great success for us, and told labels to look out for all this really great stuff.
Right.
Back then we did get some offers from smaller labels, but we stupidly, I look back on it now, we should have went for whatever anybody was willing to put it out, but we did. But anyways, that's how that. So I've known Keith since June of 19.
But wait, the funny part of that, Mark, was the fact that the magazine was raving about how we were supposed to be the next best thing, and then the 2 pages over for Poison, they were like, "This band sucks. This band is not going anywhere."
Oh boy, that's funny.
So, it didn't quite work out for us in the way that we thought it, and apparently that Poison band did okay.
Right. I think I've heard of them.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because there's a song on the demo that they reviewed for that issue back in whenever it was in the early 80s. And we did one of those songs on our new record. That's how old one of the songs is. We wrote all our stuff, but then Keith and I and our guitar player Mike, who knew all our past, we were like, hey, let's grab some of those old Chain songs and maybe play a couple of them. And we've actually done it because this is our 6th CD, our 6th release. But like on our first one we did with our old guitar player and our old singer, we did a Chain song on that one. I think one. Yeah, we did Cracker Jack on it. And then later on, we started incorporating 1 or 2 songs from Keith and mine's past, just because they're fun,
Sure.
and they never released nationally, and we helped write them, and it was it was just fun to do. So,
Of course.
but there's one of the songs on the new record dates back from that time that we never even recorded.
Which song is that, Mark?
Cool Black.
Okay, yep.
That's got a very AC/DC vibe.
Yep, absolutely.
To it. But that song was from 1984. And my guitar player at the time, who's good friends with both Keith and I to this day, He wrote 95% of the song. For the Left for Dead version, I think I added a verse and changed the arrangement slightly, and we're doing it modern day, and it's it's one of my fave songs on the. Oh, you know what? Because let's go back. You were asking me how the band got together. So Keith and I have known each other.
We got sidetracked.
It's okay. We'll get Mark back on track here.
So, well, after the 80s, we both, we had families and kids, so fast forward to like right around 2000, I wanted to start, because now my kids are a little bit older, and I still missed playing, and I was doing some. I did a couple records for a local punk band who both Keith and I are friends with, one or two of the members, and so I stayed busy. I still played drums, but I wanted to play my kind of music. I wanted to play hard rock music. I wanted to write the song. I wanted to be the one of the writers, and that's what I wanted to do. So in the early 2000s, I started getting some friends together. One of whom is Mike, the guitar player for Left for Dead. Him and a couple of my other friends, and we just did some demos, and we wrote some really shitty songs really fast, just for the purpose of getting back in the flow of things. Sure. You know what I mean? And we had some friends of ours sing on it, and some friends of ours play guitar on it. It was real goofy. Right. We did it in his basement. It was just fun. I mean, it wasn't meant to be. I never sent that to anybody for reviews, anything. I just wanted to do it just so I could start doing it again.
Sure, makes sense.
And when I got far enough, Mike, the guitar player in Left for Dead, he was already playing in another band that was doing pretty well around town, so he was out of the picture. Keith just started playing back with the chain guitar player in another band, and we went and saw them. And then
I had stopped playing. Mark kind of kept active. I had stopped playing probably for 10 plus years.
Oh wow! Okay.
And it was kind of ironic because, as Mark mentioned, the old guitar player hit me up out of the blue and said, "Hey, what are you doing? Are you doing anything musically?" I was like, "No."
Right.
It's like, do you want to do something? And I'm like, "Well, yeah." So it was a nice. I had always wanted to get back into it, but, I didn't want to just get back into it with anybody. And I think that's an important factor. So Mike, our old guitar player, called. And so we started playing. And then all of this kind of ironically happened around the same time. Mark was doing his thing. And somehow we all found our way back together, actually. It was the original guitar player and Chain. Myself and Mark, so 3/4 of the original band.
Right.
We actually ended up getting together, and then Mark had a friend who was singing at the time, right? I think Mark
And what we did then is we wrote some songs pretty quickly and put out our first demo, and got some pretty good reaction to that, and then as you start going, our old this may be a little confusing because both the old Chain guitar player's name is Mike and our guitar player's name is From. But our old guitar
I hear it's a popular name, Mark. I don't know if you hear.
Imagine that.
So anyways, just and with my friend who sang, it just everybody just I guess it started
band, right?
What's that?
Things happen in a band.
Yeah. So anyway, so after that we had Mike, who played, Mike, our guitar player in Left for Dead. He came in after we'd been around for a few years, and the band he was in, I don't know what exactly happened there, but he ended up coming up with us, and next thing you know, it was kind of a turbulent year or so, and then we just, the three of us, struck out on our own, and it's been like that since 2007.
Yeah, I think
we've been a three-piece since 2007. This would be the third album, complete album with just the three of us. So the first two were with the original lineup.
Mm-hmm.
The third one was like a 3-song EP with the original vocalist, but Mike, our current, the guitar player in Left 4 Dead. And then after that, the last couple.
Yeah.
And so that's where that, then, like I said, we've just been gigging and, all that sort of thing, and writing songs, and, next thing you know, old Jed's a millionaire. So.
Right. So, Mark, you mentioned before that somewhere around last year, you guys decided, hey, let's start recording some stuff. Let's do a record. Like you said, you have a song that dates back to the early 80s. I think there's a couple of songs on the new record that were around for a while. But what was the first song when you guys said, hey, we're going to do another record? Do you remember the first song you guys wrote specifically for this record?
I don't think
that's a tough one.
It is. I'll tell you why, because just going down the track listing, Bulletproof, which is the first song on the record,
mm-hmm.
we record. That's one of the songs on 3-song EP.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But we slightly changed it. We added a new. It kicks off the record.
Yep. And I got to pause you for a moment. I love the whole introduction. It gives me a whole Black Sabbath vibe, and I'm sure that's purposely done. Right? I felt like War Pigs, Black Sabbath, but then all of a sudden it kicks in, and it's a heavy tune. It doesn't sound anything like Black Sabbath once the song kicks in. But I'm assuming that was intentional. That whole vibe at the beginning of the season.
What you mentioned earlier before we started recording, that was Tony, the producer.
Uh-huh.
Keith, Mike, and I, we recorded the song,
mm-hmm.
and then, before we started mixing and all that stuff, Tony says to us, just really casually,
mm-hmm.
because you're right, the intro, as soon as the record starts, it's very sludgy Black
mm-hmm.
Sabbath for
mm-hmm.
like 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
We did that on purpose. We didn't want it just to, come out
right in your
fast.
face. Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we wanted a build up, and Tony just kind of looks at us and goes, you know what? Siren would sound really good here.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And we're like, okay.
Right.
We're like, and he nailed it,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would love to take credit for that, but none of us can. Tony can.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Tony, I don't know if we had mentioned it or not, Mike, but Tony's our producer. He's really done most all of our music and is like a part of the band, really. Without him,
Nice.
None of this is possible.
Mm-hmm.
He knows what we're looking for, what we want. And you talked, we were, before we started this, we talked about the sound quality.
Yes.
And, I think it's great sound quality, and that's all attributable to Tony in the Temper Mill studio. We've done most of our work there. We actually once decided to try someplace else because of, trying to save a little bit on the finance side.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest mistakes we ever made. And,
mm-hmm.
we never went back. So obviously our producer Tony Hamera played a big part in this record as well.
Yeah, and to that point, Keith, besides the songs, which I do want to talk about the songs, to me, I listened to it on headphones, and the whole mix, hearing a guitar in one ear, a guitar in the other, to me was a throwback to the way I used to listen to music in the 70s and early 80s. Yeah. And, to me, that was, the songs were there, so that's great. But the whole sound on it was really well done. I just wanted to comment on that.
Thank you. Yeah. And that's exactly what we're not trying to hide from who we are, really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're influenced by 70s and 80s great rock bands, and we want that to be evident. And that's kind of the sound that we go for. So I'm glad you said that, Mike. And
so Keith, to that point, Mark said before, he geeks on 3 sides, talks about Kiss obviously a lot, but all these other bands as well. And a lot of fans know the bands that he loves. What would you say your influences while growing up, and what do you think influenced you while you're writing songs? Yeah.
My big ones, being a bass player, Sabbath. I mean, huge Geezer Butler fan. Maiden, ACD, all the normal hard rock influences, AC/DC, Judas Priest. The biggest one, and I think we all share it, the 3 of us in the band, Motorhead, obviously. Love Motorhead. And that's the other thing that I think brought us together, and Mark's alluded to this before in other interviews that we've had, our influences and the bands that we liked were bands that nobody else was listening to. Like we were listening to bands like Accept before really anybody knew them, and Saxon and some of these bands, and not a lot of people. You had to kind of have some people in the know to be exposed to these bands, and fortunately we were. They became bigger over time, but we were in the early stages of knowing these bands when they were kind of first starting to hit it. So those would be some of the bands that I think I relate to the most.
And it's funny. Go ahead, Mark.
Mike Brunt. This is what Keith just said.
Yeah.
Again, I met Keith in June of '83. We did Livewire from Motley Crue on our first rehearsal, and it was like, that song?
Right.
Like, yeah, I know that song.
They weren't known really at that
point.
Right.
Sure. Not in '83. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So they were just just kind of.
But maybe also talk about your Kiss, the first rehearsal and the whole Kiss thing.
The first rehearsal that I ever did with Chain is I purposefully wore my Creatures of the Night tour jersey because I said to myself, I said, if they don't like Kiss, because keep in mind, Kiss was about the least cool thing you could.
Creatures, absolutely.
So I'm wearing my Creatures tour shirt, and I walk in and I'm like, one of the guys says, "Oh, you like Kiss?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh, we do Deuce and we do Rock Bottom."
Okay.
I'm like,
Cold Gin,
I found home.
Yeah. Right, you found the home, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially at the time, and like what Keith was saying is very true. We were doing Accept, we were doing. And again, when I say the Scorpions, this is before Rock You Like a Hurricane.
Right. Sure, right.
Like he's a woman, she's a man, and just the fact that we lived 10, 15 miles away from each other. But I didn't really know anyone else who was like reading Kerrang or that sort of thing, and I met these guys who knew it all too. It was this little pockets of. And that also goes back because I met Mike, the guitar player for Left 4 Dead, in college that fall, and we were walking back and forth through the Diag. First time we talked, Mike was wearing a Saxon T-shirt. Now this is in like September of 1983.
Wow. Okay.
He was wearing Saxon. I was wearing a Twisted Sister shirt. Now this is before
we're not Stay Hungry, right?
Yeah. So that's what I mean. We were all in this sort of this is before metal really hit it, before the whole LA thing exploded and everything. And I tell you what, we've been fortunate to see really cool shows. I didn't go to this show. Matter of fact, Keith, one of the shows I'm envious that Keith saw back in the days, he saw Motorhead open for Ozzy Osbourne.
Oh, wow.
You want to tell the beach ball story?
What tour was that, Keith?
Gosh, now you're
Blizzard of Oz.
Blizzard of Oz.
Wow. I do not.
Nice.
My memory of that might be a little fuzzy for obvious reasons. But, no, I mean, seen Motorhead a ton of times. I think my favorite times of seeing them was at Harpo's, though. That's where, remember, we saw Manowar at Harpo's. Nobody, and I don't know if talking about Manowar is cool or not, but nobody knew who they were, and we were up there and getting into it. Saxon too. Nobody knew who these bands were. We're at Harpo's. We're going backstage because we're so into the music. They're just like, well, we need to talk to these dudes because they dig us, and just all this great music that was happening at places like Harpo's and things like that. But yeah.
Absolutely.
Just so we were all we all liked the same things, and so that obviously made it easier for us to come together as a band.
Absolutely. So I'll touch on why I asked about your influences in a moment, but the songwriting, how does the songwriting in the band work? Is it, Mark, I know you mentioned before you wanted to be in a band where you could do some of the writing. Is it a group effort? Does one guy take the lead? How does the songwriting in the band work?
Well, Mike and I do most of the writing. Okay. Keith add a part here or there, more so the glue, I guess that is the way to put. Mike and I, and also also too, it depends on who brings what
Sure.
to the band. I'll give you two examples just because one we've been talking about. Bulletproof was a song that I wrote like sitting here with a guitar that Blackie Lawless gave to me. And that's a whole different story. I can't play guitar very well, if at all any, but I can play some chords, you know. And I just kept going because I can do that. And I started putting, lyrics together and everything. And I had my friend Dave come over, and I'm like, got this idea. Can you take my rudimentary playing and like play it like a guitar player would play it well? And so he did, and then then I brought that to the band. My friend Dave and I just recorded it on a little tape recorder, and I'm like, then I brought it to the guys to learn. And when that song came to Left for Dead, it was pretty much done. I had it lyrically and musically, everything how I wanted it. Then we'll fast forward to the video for Rock and Roll Dogs. Mike brought the guts of the song to us, but the original demo that he made, and this is what Mike would do in his basement, he'd like come up with riffs, maybe part of a chorus, and he'd go, well, what do you think? And we'll just jam on that minute and a half that he he did. And then there's a great part where that, and then when it stopped, I took an idea that da 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 da, that part before the solo, that was from a high school band song that my band that I'm like, hey, this would fit here. So I'm always thinking like
you learn from Gene Simmons, right? He takes all the parts of all different songs.
So I'm like, that, and then after the song, Mike had like the verses done in the chorus, and then that's where I'm like, I think it needs something at the end, and then I said, Mike, I think I'm going to want to sing lead on this part. And Mike and Keith are cool, it sounds good, and that's what we did. So that's really how most of our stuff. Sometimes like a song like Burn It Down, Mike had that pretty much done all together. He just like brought his like, here, play this. Where most everything else, there's a song called Son of the Gun. Mike, same thing. Mike brought most of it, and then I knew it needed some breaks, so I started playing. Speaking of Ozzy, and I do this a lot when I'm writing, especially with another guitar player. I'll start playing beats that'll break up the parts. Okay. So I started playing Crazy Train, that dun 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 dun. Well, just so it would break things up. Sure. And then I think it was Keith that said, that sounds a little too much like Crazy Train. It sounds like a complete ripoff. I said, yeah, so why don't we take that and then change it a bit? So instead of dun 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 dun, now it's da 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 dun. I mean? Right. That's how at least that's how I help write, and that's how I try to take an idea from another song that maybe the tempo is there, but you want to change the way it's played so you don't plagiarize.
Yeah, it's all bits and pieces. I mean, very very rarely, like Mark said, will a song like Burn It Down happen where you just kind of like here's something almost in totality, and you end up actually playing it that way, because every song starts in a certain place with the core idea, but by the time you're at the end of it, it's it's usually changed pretty dramatically by adding these other pieces but some songs they kind of come, they just come and they flow, and that's the way it is, and it sounds best that way, and so you keep it. I think, like, if you think about Black Summer Dream, right, Mark, from our first song, that was like one riff, and then it took us almost like 10 minutes to come up with a song. So, it happens in a variety of different ways.
I think, Keith, one of the things I found interesting when you were talking about your influences, when I was listening to the CD beforehand, and I'm writing down, I could hear an influence of Motorhead. I could hear an influence of AC/DC. I even one of the songs, I was like, I hear a touch of Iron Maiden in the guitars there. So as you're talking about your influences, I'm like, yep, check. That's what this album sounds like.
Pretty easy to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. But never a ripoff. Never a ripoff at all. But you could just hear the touch, the influence, which I thought was pretty cool, actually.
We do have to mention one blatant ripoff, though. It's Mark's drum part at the end of what is it? Is it which song?
It's Lakeside Park at the end of our song called "Coming Home." There's a drum break at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Now I would put that into songs all the time just to piss Keith and Mike off. Like it,
Okay.
well, like when you're, if you're a drummer at the end, you're holding that bam before you do the.
Sure.
I would do it, and I just go bum 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 diddly-dum bum bum diddly-diddly-diddly. It's a Neil Peart thing.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
totally
I would
on
put it
Lakeside.
in all the time, just to get a rise out of the guys, because just for fun, just goofing around.
Mm-hmm.
But I always played that riff at the end of this song. I don't know why. It doesn't fit.
So we kept it just for fun.
Just for fun, right?
Yeah.
And
Well, you know what?
Good.
That's the whole thing, though, too. There's no pretense here, and that's, I'd like to think that even reflects in the video, because I had somebody privately IM me going, "Wow, it's really cool. You guys went for this industrial look," and I'm like, "No, man, that's my
That's
office.
where we practice. Yeah.
That's where we rehearse."
Right.
And that's what I mean by no pretense. We wear our influences on our sleeve. There's not an ounce of bullshit about us.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear Maiden, you can hear Kiss, you can hear AC/DC, because that's what
That's
we
good.
like.
That's good.
Yeah, we're not trying. And I'm sure you noticed there's no ballads.
I was going to say that. I was going to say there's something for everybody except the people who love ballads.
We're going to start going, "I love you." No, we don't do that.
Right.
We just fucking rock,
Mhm.
and that's it.
Absolutely.
I'd like to think every time each single.
Mark's lying there, though. He does sometimes sing like that in practice.
I gotta grab work call really.
Yeah.
Right,
So anyway,
is Mark going to cover Every Rose Has Its Thorn then maybe on the next CD?
let's hope not, right?
Let's hope not. Right. So
you wouldn't want to do that to people.
Yeah. So while he's picking up his call over there, to me, Rock and Roll Dogs was a standout track on the record, right?
Great,
What
yeah.
made you guys decide to choose that as the lead single, the video?
It's an interesting question, Mike, because if you listen to the record, obviously there are varying degrees of songs in terms of hardness,
Yep.
tempo. So we were thinking, at least Rock and Roll Dogs, I think, is a song that it kind of, it's, I don't want to say radio friendly, because really, what is radio friendly anymore? I don't even know.
In the
if
rock
that
genre,
exists.
nothing these days.
Yeah, right. So we just thought it was something that was a little bit more representative of our kind of, just a kind of straight driving AC/DC classic kind of hard rock type riff that, really said a lot about who we were as a band, and just that kind of good time feeling and,
Absolutely.
The vibe that we wanted to convey. So I think, those are the primary reasons that we kind of chose that song to kind of be the...
I think it was a great choice to do as a lead single. It grabs you, and Mark, on a personal basis, I love the cowbell through the song "Rock and Roll Dogs." Again, it's another one of those throwback to the '70s. Like, to me, I just, that gives me a '70s feel. When I hear cowbell, I think '70s.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll mind me telling this story. Eric, because I'm friends with Eric, but Eric.
Mark, could you turn up your volume slightly? You're a little low now.
Oh, anyways, when I bought that bell, anybody who's a drummer knows what Latin percussion is like one of the best. They're known for cowbells and marimbas and all that stuff. So, anyways, I've always used it, and drummers call them LP. I always used LP bells. So, when we were getting ready to do the record, I'm like, I've had this LP bell forever. I want to get a brighter one.
Okay.
So I went, and Kenny Arnoff, you know who Kenny Arnoff is?
Yeah.
Kenny Arnoff, famous session drummer, worked for John Cougar amongst a million other people.
Yep.
He had his own line of bells and stuff. So I call Eric. I'm like, dude, I love this new bell. So I played it, over the phone to him. He's like, wow, that really sustains. It's really good. And that's the same one he uses on his kit now, is the same kind that I do. Because I said, you should really try the Kenny Arnoff bell. And it's just cool that, and I thought, because I've gotten a lot of, if you look at the comments, a lot of people really dig the cowbell part and everything. But it was just cool because,
Cowbells are cool, right?
It was cool because, that bell has that story. It was nice to be able to tell my other fellow drum geek friend, check this out. And he liked it too, so, kind of a little, and plus it's Kiss related. I figured somebody would get a kick out of that story. But
absolutely. So when I listened through the CD, I think at first couple of listens, my favorite song was "Coming Home." It's something about it just grabbed me. I liked it. I'm like, oh, this is good. This is really catchy. Do you guys start with you, Keith? Do you have a favorite on the album, or is it like asking you who's your favorite child? You can't choose amongst them.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. But no, I certainly have some that I, for whatever reason, I like better than others. Maybe the more up-tempo ones. Like I really like End of the Line. I like Burn It Down. I like Cool Black just because it's a funny thing about Cool Black is when we first started talking about bringing that song back, it was not a favorite song of mine. I wasn't that fond of it. And but again, through the process of working on it, changing a little bit here, doing something there, it's like, that's starting to grow on me. And now I would say, Cool Black is one of my favorite tunes. Ironically, probably Rock and Roll Dogs, while I love it, there are a few other tunes that, I probably like listening to a little bit more, but, I do like all the songs. Coming Home, I think it's interesting that you mentioned that one, Mike. That's probably one of, when you asked us earlier about songs we were writing that were going to maybe start to make up this album, that had to be one of the original. That one's been around.
It's not the first one,
Yeah. So Coming Home, and I think that was one we threw around a little bit too, as maybe being kind of the lead. I don't know if the lead song, but the more, again, I use the term radio friendly or commercially viable or whatever, but then Rock and Roll Dogs came along and we ended up going with that one. So, of course I like them all, but certainly there are 3 or 4 that I think stand out for me personally.
I think it's interesting you mentioned End of the Line. And one of the things I liked about that, it's a hard rocking song. You get to the chorus and there's these cool, I'll say, harmonies in the chorus. And it's like, sometimes maybe not what somebody would expect from a hard rock song. So who's the ones doing who's doing the harmonies in those kind of songs? Is it you, Keith? Is it Mark? Who does the harmonies?
Mike was harmonizing with himself. I did some background vocals in it, but the harmonies would be Mike harmonizing with himself. But like in Bulletproof, that's Mike and I harmonizing in the chorus on that song.
Right.
Mike usually handles all his own harmonies. Because I'm very primitive in my singing. I don't know if you know, in Cool Black, I take some lead lines in that song too. So it's cool. And it's getting back to Cool Black. This is a funny story. Our friend Dave, who was the original lead singer in Chain back in the 80s, lives in Hawaii now. So we don't get a chance to see him very often, but we still, keep in touch with the occasional phone call and stuff. He came back to Detroit for something, was it 2 years ago? And he said to the 3 of us, well, he just wanted to see us because he's friends with all 3 of us. He's like, yeah, you guys want to hang out and jam? I'd love to jam. Plus I got some songs I want to, you want to record some songs, straight. So we get together, we record 3 songs. One of them's Cool Black. I'm like, geez, Dave, that's the one that we wrote back in the days. Like, yeah. I'm like, fuck, I've always loved that song, because him and I remember working on that in his basement back in like 1984. So anyways, we update it, we finish it. Then when it comes time to do this record, I said to Mike and Keith, I'm like, I really want to do Cool Black because when that's a song that didn't even make it to demo form back in the Chain days, and it was a song that I liked a lot back then. We just never got it down to tape. I don't know, for whatever reason. Well, I do know the reason. The reason is the original guitar player, Mike, wasn't fond of the song, so we didn't.
Why did that song have haters?
I will say that's probably one of my favorites on the record, just because I dig the lyrics. I like the lyrics because it's a celebration of the color black.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the song's called Cool Black.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And when you think about it, it goes to such extremes. I love the lines in the song that Dave came, and again, I just filled in some blanks. I think I wrote the last verse or something, but his initial lines, where he talks about one part of the song is black represents like a formal thing, formal affair.
Mm-hmm.
We wear black tux, tux, and then also too, what's a swastika? It's black.
Mm-hmm.
You know
right.
what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got that dichotomy from something that's nice to something that's,
mm-hmm.
and that's how come I love the line, "Where would evil be without me?"
Mm-hmm.
I think that is just so clever
mm-hmm.
that he came up with that, because it's true. When you think of evil, what do you think of? People all dressed in black, again, it's cool black, because
mm-hmm.
what are we all wearing? We're all wearing black.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Mark.
It's cool black. So again, that song too. Plus, I like the fact that I like the AC/DC kind of parts in the song.
Mm-hmm.
More cowbell in that song too.
I was going to say it.
So, well, I tell you, just as a drummer, I always loved what Tommy Lee did.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think I play much like Tommy Lee, but
mm-hmm.
I loved his tones and I loved his cowbell work, especially on the first record.
Yep.
And it was nice that I've gotten a couple people go, hey, I love how you use yours the way that Tommy Lee did. That
mm-hmm.
didn't happen on accident.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I've always been a fan of the way Tommy Lee used it.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, it's kind of if you in live wire, doot doot doot.
mm-hmm.
I do the same thing in Rock and Roll Dogs.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't happen on accident, because again, that's our influence.
Right.
I like the simplicity of the hard rock with that, or like something like Ladies Room. The doot doot.
Yep.
Doot.
Right. Exactly.
It's just cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the songs I don't think that you guys have brought up at all yet is "Late Around Midnight," which I thought had like a cool, like, I'll say atmospheric vibe in the middle. Like there's like a breakdown section leading into the solo, and I was like, this is cool. It's like another little twist in the record that I didn't expect, and I'm like, oh, that's really a cool thing there.
Well, that has a story too, huh, Mark?
Okay.
Yes, it does. We got lots of stories.
That's a Chain song as well.
Okay.
That was one we never recorded.
Okay.
So I brought that back. Remember when I was saying earlier in the conversation, in 2000, I got together with Mike and a few friends.
Mm-hmm.
We've recorded that song 3 times, I think, in demo form, and each time it just didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh God, I love this song so much,
mm-hmm.
but it just doesn't work. Tony Amara, our producer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you want me to do this?
Right.
He puts that atmospheric part. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you had a thought in mind
Yes,
what we
correct.
wanted that to be, though.
Fair,
Mark.
I gave Tony, I think it's Carousel Alhambra off of In Through the Outdoor.
Okay.
You know the part where it's dun dun, dun, that part. I'm like, can you take that vibe
mm-hmm.
and put it in our song? And
mm-hmm.
next thing you know, he's on his computer with these, like that part you're talking about.
Right.
He did that literally just sitting at his desktop going,
mm-hmm.
here, check this out.
Mm-hmm.
That's how brilliant this guy is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he really made us. He did it. He really made us sound really good,
mm-hmm.
and I'm very happy about it. Plus, he's a good friend. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
Good guy. That's the best part.
And he's a great musician himself as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's in a band called the Blue
The
Flowers.
Blue Flowers.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to hear some, and it sounds nothing like us. I mean,
Right.
they just very haunting. His wife has got a voice like you would not
Mm-hmm.
believe.
Okay.
And his tones, again, guys, check out the Blue Flowers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's Tony's band, but this guy is just one of those guys I kind of envy. he just knows so much about music and how to make things. It's like I said, we're sitting there, it's like, hey man, we're going to put a siren here. Oh, can you make this more atmospheric? Oh, you mean like this?
Right.
It's like, how can you go wrong working with a guy like that? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So, Mark, you mentioned Cool Black before as one of your favorites. Do you have any other favorites on the album?
I like Bulletproof a lot just because, Mike and I share a good chunk of the lyric writing. And when we did it, if you guys go on Pandora, there's a section, I guess on Pandora. I don't know this. Brandville told me this. Well, Mike, Keith, and I did this thing where you tell the stories behind the songs. And Mike, the guitar player, we have a couple songs that he described kind of spaghetti westernish. Like this song, "Son of a Gun." Like Mike wrote the first verse, and then he'd go, well, you write the second verse, you know what I mean? Or you write the first part of the chorus, I'll write the second part of the chorus. So I love the fact that we work that way. It works good. So, that works out well. But my point was, like, when I tend to write lyrics like that, I try to, whatever, say Mike started the story, I'll try and write my own chapter. Where, songs that I write on my own, I tend to just try to make the words sound cool. Okay. But Bulletproof, without knowing it, because you wouldn't know unless I told you this, there was a part in that is very important to me when you talk about artist sort of stuff. Because, matter of fact, this is going to air tomorrow, which will be my 55th birthday. So
happy birthday.
But
55 years young.
Yes.
He's the baby in the band.
So here's the crazy part. There's the part in Bullet, the chorus, not so much the verses, is what it's like for me to. That's how I feel when I'm on stage. I feel like I'm bulletproof. You wouldn't know that unless I told you that.
Sure.
But that's why I wrote that bit of the, I'm on the stage, I'm in a rage, it just sounds like words that go together. But there's actually that's one of the few songs where, I'm actually saying, this is how I feel. Because, all of us are professionals, meaning we all have good jobs and we have families and, none of us have these delusions like, hey, we're going to be, a platinum selling touring.
You're not going to be the next Metallica.
Correct. We're just doing this because we get off on it, and it's cool that other people are, especially so far, man, people are really getting off on it. We're getting some incredible comments. So, there's no pretension about that. We just want to have fun. So, that's the whole reason behind doing this. I'm just happy that at 55 years old, I'm still releasing music that I love. This, like when Left 4 Dead started back, in the early 2000s, I'd had enough. I helped a couple of my friends in cover gigs. I helped my buddy with the hardcore stuff. I helped, I'm just like, man, I want to do something that I want to do, and it was just a matter of finding the people to do it. And the fact that, in 2020, I even said this to Keith. I said, what if back in June of 1983, someone would have pulled us over and said, okay, guys, I'm going to tell you something. In 2020, you guys are going to be releasing a brand new record, and it's going to be available worldwide via this thing called the internet.
Right.
We would have looked at you and said,
give me whatever you're smoking. Give me it.
Yeah. Right. But the cool part is, man, that's our reality.
Right. Absolutely.
Cool
so
stuff.
I have to ask you guys, I don't think I'm going out on a reach with this. You look at the album cover, the name of the album is LFD. Who's the Foghat fan in the band?
All of us.
Okay. Am I right in saying that there's an influence there?
Well, I will tell you, that was all Mike, the guitar player.
Okay. Am I right in saying that was supposed to be like an influence?
100%.
Okay.
It was ripped off on purpose.
Okay.
Yeah. And while you're speaking of the album card, there's an album art. There's a nice Kiss connection there too.
Oh, you know what? I missed that. Please share.
Well, no, it's Spiro did the album art.
Okay. So I wouldn't know that looking at it.
Did Greatest Kiss.
Right, of course.
And, you know, kind of the same thing. Obviously, I sent Spiro my copy of Foghat Live. I'm like, change this to LFD and put our logo in it, and that's what he did. But he's a great friend of mine, just a super good guy, and he did a phenomenal job on the. Yeah, but actually, Jonesy, I don't think you're as big a fan of Foghat Live as Mike and I are. I mean,
well,
it's a
yeah,
great album.
I mean, it is. I mean, I'm a pretty big fan. Maybe I just hide it.
Well, I just have Mike and I have spent geeky hours talking about.
Yeah, probably. But that's generally the way it is in general. Those guys, I'm a music geek, but they take it to a different level. So,
well, Keith, you and I were talking before this, and we were saying how I'm a Kiss fan. You're like as big as Mark. I was like, not possible.
Yeah,
Not possible.
No. I mean, these guys go deep into, and I think it's great. And I've learned a lot over the years, too, by being associated with them. And, and they maybe from me a little bit, too. So, it's been great. And
I would not like Bob Marley if it was not for Keith Jones.
Okay, there you go.
I'm a big Marley fan.
I see. That's something I was never. Matter of fact, I can't remember being down in Florida. Remember that one nightclub we went to? Oh
God, yeah. The Bob Marley Cafe. We had one of our greatest nights there.
It was a lot.
Barely made it back to the condo. Yeah.
Yep.
That's fun.
So that's again, that's what really this is all about at this point. Hopefully, the people listening to this, hopefully you want to go out and buy a copy, but if not, go to Spotify, check it out. Hopefully you'll love our passion for this, just as much as if you love this kind of music. You'll get it and you'll want more of it. So
Mark, let's talk about that. Where can people find the record? Is it Spotify, iTunes? Where is the record available?
All the normal, if you were going to go buy a new Kiss record with, on streaming,
right,
and not going to Walmart or whatever, no difference. So if you'd go to Apple iTunes or, Spotify or wherever you buy streaming music, you can also, this is very important, if you want a physical copy, you can go to Amazon, and Amazon now has this feature called CD on Demand. Well, it's great for us and also bands like us. Also, actually, big bands are doing this too. Instead of us making 1,000 copies and having them sit in a warehouse, as they come in, they burn them, and they'll put a cover art on it and send it to you. So if you want a physical copy, you can get one on CD, Amazon only.
Okay.
But if you go to Amazon Left for Dead and the name of the album is LFD. You can get it. You can get it that way. But again, as of tomorrow, it'll be on Spotify. Meaning, it's today because it's
right. By the time I post, it'll be today.
This is a hearing on the 29th. So
yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So Spotify and iTunes and all wherever you can buy streaming music, you can buy it here. And on behalf of Keith and I and everything, we want to say thank you to Michael Brandvold. As you guys know, he's part of the Three Sides crew, if not the what do you want to call it? The Grand Poobah over there. But he's done all our marketing for us, and to say that guy's done a stellar job is an understatement. We've been getting coverage on Brave Words and Melodic Rock and a couple other places. Again, a few thousand spins within the first few days.
That's awesome.
On YouTube, and just for a little local band out of Detroit, that's a lot of love and a lot of fun. So,
like you said before, Keith, Mark, think about 1983, 1984, you and Keith sitting around talking about it, whatever, and saying, hey, in 2020, we're going to release an album, we're going to release songs. Oh, and the first couple of days, 2,000 people are going to listen to it, right?
You're right. You're absolutely spot on with that. It really does put it all in perspective.
Absolutely. So, one or two other questions before I let you guys go. So, before we were talking about a little bit, what's going on in the world right now and how you had to change the marketing of the album. When all of this blows over, are you guys going to get out and play shows to support the record? What's the plan there? Do you have a plan, or is it just up in the air because we don't know what's going on?
Everything is up in the air right now, band wise and everything, That's the one thing that is cool. This is where things have changed, because before the pandemic thing, guys playing in cover bands had more opportunity because gig weekend and stuff,
right.
if you want. Now, for the most part, those gigs have all gone away.
Absolutely.
So, bands that are releasing their own music, now you try and get that into, because put it this way, releasing your own music, you're the only band playing that music, streaming or whatever. Whereas, because I also in my free time, I also do, a Kiss covers thing that I've been doing. Matter of fact, our gig was supposed to be, I think, April 4th or something like that. Okay. This is the 8th annual. I have a group of friends of mine who are in other Detroit bands. And we get together once or twice a year, and we do an all Kiss show, and it does very well. We play a little club, and we always pack the place, because we have people from all our different bands that come and see us.
Sure.
And I like doing that, but it's kind of like that line in the Pee Wee Herman movie, like Dottie, like my love is to write songs and to do my own music. I like playing covers. It's okay,
right.
It doesn't suck. But that's when you boil it all down, that's not why I do it. And Keith's playing with some guys right now, doing covers, and it's fun, but for me, it's not as fulfilling.
Yeah.
And
it's just a diversion, This is
right
really
now, moving forward, in the next, few weeks, whatever, I want to start writing songs for the next one, Because you really don't have any other options unless you want to. If I want to sit there with my buddies and play Kiss covers online, but that doesn't really interest me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Totally understandable. So May 29th is when the record comes out. It's the same day I'm going to release this. So when people watch this, go over, buy the record, iTunes, Amazon, every place you could, Spotify, every place you could get streaming music. My last question for you guys: when people buy this and they like it, and they're just, learning about the bands, is there a way for them to pick up some of the back catalog as well? Is that available anywhere?
Good question.
Well, it will be. Matter of fact, that we have, again, I've been thinking long and hard about this. I'm not going to release, like, the first things we did, not because I'm not proud of them. I am. But that doesn't, if you like what you're hearing, on the new record, Tony produced the last two, and it's us three, know. So you're going to like that sort of, thing. So, yeah, we've got 2 other records that, see, what we used to do, again, everything's changed.
Sure.
We used to, we'd press up, 1,000 CDs, and we'd give them away or sell them at our shows or whatever, and that's what we did. Matter of fact, Keith, didn't you just find one in a used record store or something?
Oh, no. 99 cents. It had a little sticker on it. I think it was a garage sale or something. But I'm like,
Keith, did you buy it or did you let it sit there?
I did. I'm like, it's great to see our albums.
So, you know what I mean? So that's the whole thing. So, yeah, I actually been talking to Brandvold about this because as somebody who's in marketing, and this is the nice humbling part for both Keith and I'm getting a lot of fucking love about it. So we've all been getting hey, judging by what we've heard, we'd like to hear more. So Mike said to me, he goes, you really should put that stuff out. So what we're going to do is probably, let this run its cycle.
Of course, yep.
And then here is ultimately and of course, this is not
all subject to change before we hang up.
Yes, correct. Absolutely. But if matter of fact, I was telling Keith the other day, I said, let's wait, let's let this one do what it does.
Of course, yeah.
Assuming people love it and like it as much as they have been. God, thank you, God. It's been really, again, we're Keith and I are like 2 little schoolgirls. Did you see that comment?
That's cool.
No, it's exciting. I mean, look, if you were an artist or even, in a band and people were talking about your stuff and giving it lots of love, what's not to love about
Of
that?
course. Absolutely.
So anyways, I thought to myself, if the demand stays there, I've got 2 albums worth of stuff in my back pocket. Put that out. Start writing stuff for the new one. Maybe record in the winter and release the next one, because it's going to take 8 months to a year to come up with. But also too, I'm already thinking, there's a couple old chain tunes I can nick and old things. And there's another thing. We have some songs that we wrote, like what was the? Anyways, we have some songs that just didn't make it to this record that were done musically. Either we didn't finish vocals with them, or we just kind of gave up at them. Matter of fact, I went back not too long ago and was digging through some of the old demos from like 2015, going, God, why didn't we keep going with this? This was pretty,
Right.
So,
Yeah, and I mean, we would love to support it live because that's what we love to do.
Sure.
I mean, we're a live band. I mean, that's where I feel at home. I think that's kind of where we excel. I mean, obviously, I think we've done well in the studio, but live is what we love. But it's just uncertainty around that right now. So we kind of take that out of the equation. But if we can, get to that point again, we would love to be able to support this, from a live perspective.
Right.
But we just don't know right now.
Of course. Let's hope we can get there soon, right?
Yeah, for sure. For
Absolutely.
sure.
Anything else about the album that I'm not asking you guys that you wanted to bring up?
No, you made some great points, Mike. You were very well listened on the album. That was awesome to hear. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for the offer to do this.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
I'm happy to do it.
Mike and I have been friends for about 30 years. So when I started dragging my fat ass over to New York, Mike and I would always run into each other.
Absolutely.
At the Kiss Expos and stuff like that. And look, I'll leave people with this. That's how I got to know people like Brandvold and Tommy from Three Sides and Mike Brunn and everybody, because I got off my butt and I explored. And I went to New York to these big music things, Kiss conventions, and you met the fellow geeks. And look at this, 30 years later,
we're still geeking.
still geeking out,
Absolutely.
On all this stuff. And boy, it's a lot of fun, man. I tell you what, Kiss has brought so much incredible people and events. And matter of fact, I took Jones. You went at least once. You went to. We had our picture taken with Kiss.
Yeah, multiple times. Yeah, multiple times.
Yeah. So I've taken Keith a few times, and it's just been fun. It's hard not to. You get your road stories, and get all that. That's the great thing about music.
Absolutely, and that's the way we did it back then, because there was none of this 30 years ago. So you had to get out and do these things. So and that's the way you meet a lot of people.
Thank God.
Absolutely,
Thank God.
I agree.
I would go back to that in a heartbeat. You know why? Because it was so humanistic. We didn't just click. We went out and we shared, lunch together and stand in line at waiting for an autograph. And it was just better.
Yeah. Now we do sound like a bunch of old men.
Yep. We have now dated ourselves.
That's right. That's right.
If we didn't already.
But that really does. This will, I guess, could be the final word on that. But if you love those times, you'll love this music.
Agreed.
Because
that's
where all of this came from those experiences.
Amen. Well, May 29th, this video will be out. The album will be out. Download it, buy it. You guys are going to love it. Thank you both, Mark. Thank you, Keith, for joining me today. It was a great chat, and I look forward to the success you guys have on the record.
Great. Thank you so much, Mike. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you both. Everybody, thanks for watching. Till next time. Later.
All right. See you guys.
Alrighty, there you have it, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that episode with Mark and Keith. They are two great guys, and their band, Left for Dead, deserves nothing but tremendous success on their newest album, LFD. I strongly suggest you go out, buy it, download it, and support the band. While you're here, hit that subscribe button below on my YouTube channel. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe to me over there as well. And head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. I'd like to thank Mark and thank Keith for joining me. It was a lot of fun, and I had a great time. That's it for this episode. Until next time, thanks for watching.